remember the strange disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 in 2014. Now, it gripped the world for months after its disappearance. Even today, a full decade later, the plane has never been found. One independent investigative journalist, however, named Ashton Forbes, thinks he might have the answer to the mystery of the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370.
I mean, look at that. That is the dark energy laser. You can see the lines in front of the orbs. They're literally creating space in front of the orbs and traveling along them like a gravitational well. Who would even have known about this in 2014?
And joining us now is that independent investigative reporter who has been making a lot of waves on social media with his detailed claims and videos. Ashton is the organizer of MH370X, a volunteer group dedicated to solving the mystery of the missing Malaysian airliner and disclosing advanced technology to the public. Ashton, it's really good to have you here. This is a little bit of a different subject for us to explore on my show, but I can't tell you how many people have flagged your work for me. And there's some people who are going to be, some friends who are going to watch my show today who usually don't. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Emerald, for having me. I'm really excited about this.
This has remained a mystery to people. And for the last decade, people have wanted to know what happened. You've posted some detailed findings about advanced U.S. government research projects related to the technology that you believe to be demonstrated in the videos of the missing Malaysian airline. Could you just explain to our audience what you think you've discovered in these documents?
Well, I think the first thing is that there's this mystery of the plane where we found no debris field for this plane. The most expensive and extensive search in history found not one piece of the plane. We know the United States government knows exactly what happened to this plane. We found the space-based infrared system that should have been able to track the plane that's constantly surveilling the entire globe. The SOSA system, which has hydrophones that can detect even a tiny sub imploding, like the Titan sub that imploded off the coast of the Titanic, and over-the-horizon radar, which can see for thousands of miles. We also were able to find USA 229's, a spy satellite that was in the Malacca Straits, potentially looking down at the coordinates we see in the bottom left of the satellite video, which is on the right side of the screen there now. So it's hard for anyone to believe and even fathom that the United States or anyone else could have technology similar to what we see in these videos. A lot of people are going to look at them and go, this looks like video game graphics or CGI. But I assure you that based on the investigation and the research into the missing plane, as well as the details around these videos, this is not any type of hoax or fabrication. What we're looking at here is advanced technology the United States has. What it is equivalent to, if not exactly of, is warp drive. And we're talking like Star Trek warp drive, the ability to manipulate gravity, to put an object into a very thin bubble and allow it to propel faster than the speed of light. I would have never thought this was even possible when I started this investigation 8 months ago. And I think we've uncovered so much evidence that it almost seems undeniable at this point, including multiple Defense Intelligence Agency papers, scientific papers, one of which is actually just called Warp Drive, Warp Drives, Dark Energy, and Manipulation of Extra Dimensions. And then the other one is called Traversable Wormholes, Stargates, and Negative Energy. And when you look into these, you quickly realize that, first of all, Tesla was right. There is potentially an extra dimension that our reality is painted onto. And if we can crack through that, then we can unlock essentially unlimited negative energy, which is exactly what is needed for a wormhole to occur. So what we think we're actually looking at here in those videos is a real wormhole, and the United States government has reverse engineered that. I would speculate, based on the investigation here, sometime in the early 2000s is when we first started to figure it out and it became operational. And we've been hiding it ever since. Now we're near 2024.
Okay, let me ask you. I mean, there. One of our associate producers and a great friend of the show, and I know you've been talking with him, Brandon Weicker, assures me that we have technology that, the U.S. government has technology that they won't admit to, and we can't even fathom. So, I'm very open to the, it's interesting. I find it very interesting. You also mentioned Dr. Salvatore Pais, I think is how you say his name, a lot in your work. Tell us, what is his significance to this story and your research on exotic technology?
Yeah, and somebody asked me to reach out to Dr. Salvatore Pais. He's a Navy engineer, active Navy engineer. And he has these patents that are out there. He contacted me back within 24 hours and said to set up a podcast, which I never had one. And I thought right away, that's pretty amazing, because if these videos are fake, why is there a guy who's got these UFO patents, they call them, that wants to talk to me about them? And the patents are high frequency gravitational wave generator, which I think you could argue is what we're seeing with those orbs from the clip earlier on. Inertial mass reduction for a transmedium craft, which I think opens the door to the idea of creating the space-time bubble around an object, which can allow for mass reduction. That's what we need in order to achieve the speed of light or potentially go faster. And then piezoelectric induced high temperature superconductor, which if you look into the history of anti-gravity, you'll find out that a lot of these scientists that have mysteriously disappeared have been looking into superconductivity and its implications for anti-gravity research. So people should definitely look at his patents, realize that they are approved patents, and the Navy had to step in to convince the patent officer that yes, we can achieve energy densities that will break the Schwinger limit, which is where space-time becomes nonlinear, which is exactly what we see in those videos where we see this cold event where, it looks like what you would expect like a mouth of a wormhole to look like.
Mm-hmm. What I noticed in looking at social media is that a lot of people say that this is doctored video or it's not authentic. And you've been pretty clear on your Twitter page that the videos came from a leak within the U.S. military, and that one man named Edward C. Lynn is the likely source of that leak. So our audience can understand where this came from. Can you tell us who this man is and why did he leak them? Ashton, there is some concern out there that this might be some kind of disinformation operation. And I'll be honest, that would be my first concern, having dealt with so many of them from the government myself.
Yeah, and I can tell you that I am not being played, or nobody's contacted me related to the government. I'm not on behalf of the government in any way, shape, or form. So if this is some type of elaborate hoax, which I think that the only way these could be fake is if the government themselves made them. There's just requires too much inside information about our surveillance capabilities and what an MQ-1C Gray Eagle drone looks like, what the videos look like. And I'm open to that idea if the U.S. government wants to make a statement on it. They've been very quiet about this. So if this was a disinformation campaign, I would have expected them to step forward, promote these videos. They've been out there for 10 years, confirmed, going back to 2014. It's only now that we've been able to realize they're real. Some of the elements that essentially prove that they must be authentic is that there are coordinates in the bottom left of the satellite video, which indicate the real location of the plane in the Nicobar Islands around 1840 UTC on March 7th. And the video was published May 19th, 2014, which is 9 days before the raw telemetry data was even made available. You guys can search this yourself. The experts didn't even know where this plane was exactly. A lot of people just speculated it flew right over Indonesia, not around Indonesia, which is what these coordinates would indicate. So unless this hoaxer had psychic abilities and precognition, it's pretty incredible that they put the plane in the exact right location before that data was known. The clouds actually do move and evolve in the videos. The reason why it's not very apparent is that satellites are very, very far away. And each frame that we see is only a few seconds. There's no sign of manipulation on a single frame in either video. So people have poured through these frame by frame. There's no indication whatsoever anywhere in them that they're fake. People have tried to compare them to VFX, stock effects that don't match, and claim that somebody modified it all around. People have tried to claim that they were come from a 2D cloud picture, but we've shown that these require 3D rendered environment. And that the lighting when the zap goes off is actually accurate in 3 dimensions as well. So it's okay if people want to believe they're fake. I think that the information here is so beyond the paradigm, and it implicates the United States government in such a huge conspiracy that I can understand why people would be skeptical. But I would just ask that people look at the evidence out there. Real quick, there's a couple things that people would say is the ocean's really big. Plane could have crashed somewhere else, but we searched up and down the 7th arc everywhere above and below water. Unless those satellite pings are wrong, then there's nowhere else to search. They have the plane running out of fuel. It can't go any further. And if those satellite pings are wrong, then what's happening here in the Nicobar Islands is the best indication of what occurred.
And forgive me, I'm not a scientist. I'm a total layperson. I did cover science news and science and tech news at one point in my career, but it's been a long time ago. What do you think happens if this is the case where it went through some kind of wormhole as you described? What's at the other end of that? What happened to the plane?
Yeah, it's like going through a doorway. So that's the thing. If you read the papers that I mentioned, Going through a wormhole, they're humanly traversal. It means you're not going to die when you go through it. The gravitational forces won't rip you apart. It's like not like falling into a black hole. Situation is it's like a shortcut. So the idea of there being an ether, an extra dimension, is that every point in space and time is actually connected, and we simply don't perceive it. And this is why quantum teleportation is possible. It explains the double slit experiment. And if we can manipulate space-time itself, now you can disappear in one point and instantly appear in the other. Frames of reference are localized, meaning that we experience time at different rates based on our own frame of reference. Even you and I do. And the only reason why it seems similar is because we're both on the same planet. So for the people that were going through the wormhole, it's going to appear like they just walked through a door and they're now somewhere else. For the people on the outside, it may look like there's a time dilation effect. Those people may show up slightly in the future, and it looks like faster than light travel is happening. And that's where it starts to get very weird, but it is consistent with physics that's out there.
Well, Ashton, I hate to fly, and I've always said that if there was technology that I would hope to see developed, it was teleportation. So you might be giving me some hope here. Look, I'm going to let our audience know we're running out of time, but you do go into a deep dive in an article that is available on your X page. You talk about, how you believe the government is purposely disappearing this plane. And while we don't have time to get into it, I know a lot of people in my audience are going to be fascinated. So they can find this on your Twitter, correct? Or your X.
Yeah, and just real quick, guys, the debris that washed up in Africa contraindicates the location where they say it crashed. The motive is the semiconductor scientist from Freescale. Edward C. Lin has got to be the leaker. You guys look up his case. The timing is right around the plane disappeared. And if there was a hoaxer, how did they know that we would never find the plane? And why didn't they come forward for a $150,000 bounty?
All very, very fair points. Look, Ashton, I would love to dive more into this because it's such a broad subject. And we didn't get to some of the things I would like to discuss. So why don't you come back and let's talk about it some more.
Anytime you want, it'll be great.
We'll let them digest this for now, go read the paper, and then we'll have another segment in the near future.